Hello and welcome back to the channel of nonsense and a review of what I think might be one of 2021's biggest cars. And I'm not talking about my Skoda, the Czech Bugatti. I'm talking about this, the all-new Kia EV6. It is the sister car to the Hyundai Ioniq 5, which, as we all know, is bloody brilliant. So can this do all the same things as that, or is it different? Is it better? Is it worse? This is an early prototype, well, quite a late prototype, pre-production prototype. I'm going to take you for a walk around, do a full driving review, and see if it's any good. Let's get going. Yes, here it finally is. I know quite a few of you in the comments have been asking for a drive of this, and I've finally got my hands on one. This is the EV6, which sounds like a weird name, but actually in German it means the act of copulating in an electric vehicle. Let's see who gets that one. It costs from £41,000. The best mileage you can get out of one of these is 328 miles from one of the rear-wheel drive options. The fastest one is coming out next year. That's called the EV6 GT. That can do 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds, which is just ludicrous, but that's a 2022 thing. This is a GT line spec car. It's not a full UK spec car. There are some bits on here that you won't get in the UK, such as these bigger 20-inch wheels, but let's just look at it. This will cost about £47,000 because it's an all-wheel drive dual motor one with 321 horsepower, and that's good for 0 to 60 in just over 5 seconds. It weighs just over 2 tons, and well, doesn't look like the Ioniq 5. It's sleeker, it's snootier. I love how the nose drops down here, and the new Kia logo is actually, you probably won't be able to see this, is a brushed metallic finish on it. You've got these lovely headlights with these kind of sliced LEDs that looks like shaved lines in its eyebrows. These 20-inch wheels have got this kind of combed effect on them, which I really quite like. It's a bit different. Now, it's on Michelin Pilot Sport SUV tyres, which won't be coming to the UK. They're just things that the Korean factory bunged on it before shipping over here for journalists to drive. Let's have a look at the side, if you can avoid getting distracted by the blue beauty in the background. It's a lot lower than the Ioniq 5, or certainly looks a lot lower. And I'll be interested to see if that means you get less headroom in the back, because one of my favourite things about the Hyundai was the amount of room inside. So yeah, it's got the cool pop-out door handles. They stuck a little prototype badge on it, which is quite amusing because the platform is called the e-GIMP. Yes, that's the platform that's underneath this, the Hyundai, and the Genesis that's coming as well. So e-GIMP, I think that is an online service from the late 1990s. 77.4 kilowatt hour battery. There is a smaller battery option, but the UK isn't taking it. This is what you get. I think it's something of the Aston Martin DBX about the rear. It's quite nice. Before I get too carried away, I should point out it's about 4.7 meters long, so it's not quite as big as you'd think. It weighs a smidge over 2 tons, as I've just said. But all EV6s, even if you go for the entry-level rear-wheel drive one, get 800-volt charging architecture, so you can get, well, from 10% to 80% in 18 minutes on a 350 kilowatt charger, which is pretty impressive. And this one will do about 300 miles with the all-wheel drive dual motor jobby. Right, let's look at the boot space. You've got a 480 litre boot in here. If I can flip, that's quite violent, wasn't it? All these nets, and you've got an extra 100 litres under here as well. Some quite interesting things in here. You can flip the rear seats down by pulling on this. Bye-bye. And there's one over there as well. Now, something that is quite cool that you get with the EV6 is a zipped up box, which I'm going to have to do one-handed while holding the gimbal, which is one of my favourite things to do. And you might think, what is this? This is not a sex toy, believe it or not. It is the vehicle to load charger. Oh no, I have to put it between my legs, that's even worse. Which opens up. I'm going to have to put my gimbal down to do this. Yes, this is the vehicle to load appendage, shall we say. So that end goes in the charging flap, which I'll show you in a second. It's just down here. And this end of it, I don't know if you can see that, it's got a UK 3-pin plug. And this basically provides a 3 kilowatt charge. So you can run pretty much anything. You can charge a laptop, you can run small kitchen appliances off your battery in the car. And there's another 3-pin in the back seats as well, which is great. I kind of think more electric cars need to make the most of being electric by letting us use other electric things. Let me show you charging flap. Charging flap you open by pressing the button there, and then it pops open in the bum. I am going to go and charge this in a sec on a fast charger. We'll see how we get on. But that's all we need to know about that. It does close electrically as well and opens electrically. I should probably just press the button. There we go. As standard, the EV6 comes with a vegan interior, and there's also vegan leather and all that sort of stuff available. I don't know if you can see down there. Is it going to focus? There's a little flap which hides the extra 3-pin socket. So jumping in, you do have to duck down a little bit under the swooping roofline, and it does kind of, you can rest your head on it. So if you are tall like me, just beware. It's not as easy to get out of as the Ioniq 5, but once you're in here, like the Hyundai, you have got acres of knee room. My feet fit under the seat. I mean, yeah, I could be in a Korean cave of electricity. It's very friendly and happy back here. It's a little bit darker than the Hyundai, but the one I drove, the Hyundai I drove rather, was kind of more light inside. I quite like the two-tone seat options with this white stitching and these white panels. Your backseat passengers or kids also get little USBs in the side of the front seats as well, which is quite cool and useful for charging phones and iPads. And you get these airline style pockets there. The Kia EV6 also gets felt lined rear door bins, so your stuff doesn't rattle around. I've just had a £110,000 Audi e-tron GT to test, and the ISOFIX covers rattled around all week and it pissed me off. Now, just before I show you all the interesting stuff up there, I think the headrests look like K2SO, which was that sarcastic robot from one of the more recent Star Wars films. Anyway, I'm sure they kind of are designed to stop you breaking your neck in a crash. Everything up front is basically Kia's latest infotainment system, so you get the funky neon pink graphics on there, you get a digital driver's display. Those are two 12-inch screens, and they're kind of mounted, I'm not sure if you can see, in this curved panel, which is quite cool and kind of does the job of making it seem a bit more swoopy in here. And you've got these funky kind of stripes across the dashboard and across the lid of the armrest as well. You've also got wireless charging there, but not wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You have to plug in for those. That's the gear selector. You just twist that to go between drive and reverse. And that's pretty much it. You've got these semi-physical aircon controls. They are little kind of screens, but they're always there and they're separate from infotainment, so points there. Slightly flat-bottomed 2-spoke steering wheel, and you've got all the drive mode selectors on there and everything else as well, and you've got little paddles, and you can just hold the left paddle to do maximum regenerative braking. Just before we hit the road, I should show you that, like the Ioniq 5, you've got a completely flat floor, which Kia has used for a cubby and some 12 volts USBs and things down there, places to stick drinks and phones and all that kind of good stuff. So you get this kind of floating center console, which is really quite cool and quite charming. There we go. There's electronic handbrake, it's there. Anyway, that's enough of a walk around. Let's hop in, go for a drive, go and charge the EV6 and see what it's like out on the road. Yes. Please. Right, let's go for a drive in the Kia EV6. So obviously it's got keyless ignition. There's an on button that says EV. It bongs at you, the dash sweeps into life and it says, I'm ready to start driving. I twist it into D and away we go. Right, first things first, the turning circle. It doesn't seem anything extraordinary, to be honest. I think the ID4 from memory had a tighter turning circle, but I haven't got the figures. That's just going from my feel. I've got a lovely exterior view of the car like BMW did for the 7 Series 5 years ago. So you can actually see the outside of the car and spin round. It's marvelous going along. Being able to see exactly where all the wheels are. That is cool tech that was in 70, 80,000 pound cars a couple of years ago. Now it's in a 47 grand Kia, which is pretty good. The A-pillars are quite thin. I've noticed that already because I've taken the wrong turning at this junction. I can see out really easily out the front. The A-pillars, the bits at the front, are nice and dainty and thin. I need to move my seat forward. It's electric. I should point out that I've got heated and cooled seats, which is fantastic on a warm day like this. And I always just love it when you get cooled seats, because again, it's one of those things you only used to get on cars that cost 100 grand, and now it's on a Kia, which is good. Kia's kind of doing this thing where they're just like, yeah, screw you guys, we're gonna keep our cars vaguely reasonably priced and put loads of stuff on them. Anyway, I'm stuck in traffic. I'll see you at the charger and then we'll go driving. Right, in all these EV videos I do, I know I wang on about how this 800 volt architecture is going to change the way we use EVs, and I'm just going to show you what it means when you're charging a car with this stuff. So I'm at an Ionity charging station, which is one of the faster ones, I've got a charging card from Kia because I'm a journalist and I'm too pikey to buy my own electricity. Let's see how quickly we can get this from 74% to 90, because that's all I really need. Let's go. Step 1. Step 2. Payment authorized. Car makes clicking noises. Preparing to charge. Initialization failed. Brilliant. I was warned that one of these wasn't working, and I think I found it. Flappy flappy, closey closey. How handy is that? Parked. Open bum flap. Get pikey card. There we go. It's starting to charge. Hopefully you can see that I'm on 73%, so it's really shiny out here. I'm up to 120 kilowatts. That's how much juice it's putting into the car. Okay, it's peaked at 130, which is probably about right, because the fastest bit of charging is done from about 10%, then it slows down as you kind of get to 75, 80%. Yes, I'm having to hold the camera up to my eye like a gimp because it's too bright outside. But yeah, this car has a 74 kilowatt hour battery and it's already put 1 kilowatt into it. So that's pretty good going, kilowatt hour, sorry, in a minute. So if I sit here for 5 minutes, I reckon this will get up to 90%. I'm going to time it. Right, I've started a timer to see it's on 75%. How long until it gets to 90% charge? Thrilling stuff. While I'm charging up, I thought I'd have a play around with the menus in here. So this is the EV charging menu. You can see that I am indeed 10 yards from an Ioniq charger, and you can quickly get to the sat nav and find where your nearest charges are and all that kind of stuff. I've got the fans on, so it's kind of predicting a mileage with the fans on. With the fans off, the aircon off, I get an extra 9 miles of range. Look at that. And if you want to, you can plug this into your house overnight if you've got a big battery in your house, and you can tell it to decharge the car to a certain percentage overnight. So that's the vehicle to load stuff, which is all kind of Elon Musk's Powerwall futuristic stuff, isn't it? Or if you just want to charge your home off the grid and things like that. Otherwise, the infotainment is the same as most other Kias. It's not fully functional in this because, as I said, this is kind of a late prototype. It's not a full production car yet, and there are bits and bobs that aren't final. But there we go. And in the screen here as well, it's telling me that I've got 25 minutes to 100%, but then that last 10% always takes ages and the charging rate will slow down. You can already see I'm down to 100 kilowatts of charge rather than the 140 that it started at. So yeah, I'm on 82% charge, so 90. Well, we've been going, how long have we been going? 4 minutes. So I reckon, yeah, by 5 minutes we'll be close to 90, and then I can get on the road and show you what it's like to drive. Bing! There we go. So that took 9 minutes to add, what, 14% to the battery? That's a bit unfair because obviously I'm at the higher end of the charge, so that's when it slows down anyway. You can see it's down to 44 kilowatts, but that has given me an extra, what, 40 miles in 10 minutes that I've been sitting here. And obviously if you're like 10% charge, it hoovers up the electrons. So let's go and stop that and go for a drive. Now, if you cast your mind back 2 years to the start of this video, I said this is a late prototype, so I'm not really meant to be assessing the ride and handling because they're not quite finalized yet. It's not on the tyres you'll get in the UK. But anyway, bollocks that. It seems to me that it's slightly firmer than the Ioniq 5, yet at the same time has better body control. So I'm not getting that kind of high frequency jiggle that I got in the Ioniq 5. It just feels a bit more planted and a bit more sporty. Now, I've been out on some faster roads. This is my second take of this bit because my GoPro died. Thank you, GoPro Corporation, again. But yeah, I mean, you can hustle it around corners reasonably quickly, but everything starts flying around and then you realize you just wouldn't drive a family SUV like that. But it does grip and it does go. And 0 to 62 in 5.2 seconds, yeah, it's quick, and it's got that mid-range punch, which makes all dual motor EVs so brisk. And one thing that people don't talk about when they're doing EV reviews, I don't think, is how uncomfortable instant acceleration can be for your passengers. There's no kick down from a gearbox, there's no revs rising, it's just instant, and it's unexpected. So they force you to drive in a more chauffeury, gentle fashion, which I think is a good thing. I mean, that's if you're not a twat. Also, because the charging flap is on the bum, you have to reverse in to charging points, which I think is correct, because people should reverse into car parking spaces. Anyone that noses into a parking space, well, I don't want to be friends with you. Now, I know somebody's going to say this in the comments on YouTube because it's YouTube. Yes, this particular Kia is £47,000.
but it's the most pre-ordered Kia ever in the history of Kia UK, as I understand it. And 25% of all those loads of pre-orders are for the £60,000 GT. That's the one that does 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. So 25% of the most pre-ordered Kia are a £60,000 Kia. That's ridiculous. So I think we need to slightly reassess our narrative of Kia as a manufacturer. I think this feels pretty much as premium as an Audi, near enough, damn it. And it's got all the tech that you would have had on BMWs and Audis from modern times, really, such as the 3D spinny round parking camera, the cooled seats, all that sort of stuff. I just think that, you know, everything is more expensive these days, including Kias, but they're trying to sell a 50 grand car, and boy are they selling them. And Hyundai as well is having a massive success with sales of the Ioniq 5, or pre-orders of it. And I've seen loads of you in comments on the Hyundai video saying that you've ordered one. So people are clearly willing to spend 50 grand on a Hyundai. And bear in mind, these are cars that normal people would buy because they're family cars. So yeah, I think we're in a strange new world of expensive Korean cars that are very nice, worth the money, and people are buying, so the price is probably right. Sorry, was that a bit of a soapbox moment? Let's get back to the car. One thing I quite like about this is the regenerative braking through the paddles. So as normal, most EVs, you kind of got 4 levels of regen. When you click down into the harshest one, it says I pedal on, and that is the one pedal driving mode. So if you lift off, it will bring you to a standstill eventually. And it's not like most other cars where you have to press a button to activate that. It is just the lowest level, or the highest level of regeneration, should I say. And what you can do as well, which is quite neat, is if you pull the left-hand paddle in, he says, checking his mirrors, it will brake for you using the motor until you let go of the paddle. So if you're in one of the lower levels of regeneration, where there's barely any engine braking, you can pull the left-hand paddle, and it's a bit like you're using the brakes. If you are actually using the brakes, it won't work. It will say, conditions, recuperation shift paddle, conditions not met. That sounds very German, doesn't it? But yeah, it won't let you do it if you're already on the brakes. But it's a nice implementation of regenerative braking. That's what I'm trying to say. Sorry, that instant torque just makes all my crap fly everywhere. Right, let's go. I've spoken about the handling. I've spoken about why I don't like driving family cars quickly, because all your shit rattles about, not literally. There's one other thing I really like, well, there are many things I like, the headrests. They're really comfortable. I know I said they look like that sarcastic droid from Star Wars, but yeah, they're cushiony and nice. It's like my head is in Bespin. Is that the Cloud City? I can't remember. Or is it the Sarlacc bit? Anyway, I think all interior reviews of cars should use awful, tortured Star Wars metaphors, but super comfy, just look a bit weird. You also get Kia's latest digital dashboard, so you get the rear view blind spot monitor when you indicate left and right, so you can check you're not about to murder our lycra-clad friends. In terms of driving modes, the EV6 has a little button down here that changes between eco, normal and sport. Now this car isn't on adaptive dampers, so all that really does is sharpen the throttle response and the steering weight and changes the noise. So in sport mode, you get a bit more of an X-Wing-esque whine to it, or a howl. I just leave it in normal, frankly, because that's the easiest and the least aggressive. Well, eco is the least aggressive, but normal is the most normal. Jesus Christ. Anyway, what I reckon manufacturers should start doing is tie-ups with Disney to do Star Wars themed noises that you can buy for 10 quid to make your car sound like the Millennium Falcon. Think how much money there would be in that, in selling fake car noises that you can plug in somehow to the software. That's how I should make my millions, isn't it? Not this YouTube nonsense. Anyway, that's definitely enough from me on the Kia EV6 from a driving point of view. Back to you, Tim, for an outro to try and make sense of it all. Life, the universe, and all that stuff.
So in conclusion, what do I think of the Kia EV6? Well, it's very, very good, and it does feel quite different from the Hyundai, not just in terms of the cabin feeling a bit more modern, a little bit more serious and a bit more kind of normal, but not in a bad way, but it drives differently as well. It feels a little bit more sporty, a little bit more tied down, connected to the road. So if you don't want a slightly aloof feeling one, go for this. But at the moment, with these two cars from Hyundai and Kia, you've got a wicked choice of really good family EVs for around 40 to 50,000 pounds. Now the niggles with this are kind of similar to the niggles I have with the Hyundai, and they're fairly limited. It's basically the fact that you can't get wireless CarPlay or Android Auto yet. I dare say they might come in future, but yeah, basically pick the one you like the look of. If you want a slightly sportier drive, go for this. It's really good. It's still really spacious. It's just that lower height getting into the back of it that you need to be careful of. Still a decent sized boot. The front, which I didn't show you, which is basically a small space for your leads. If you get only the rear motor one, the space in front is a bit bigger. But yeah, it's a cool thing. I think we'll see lots of them, and judging by the success of the pre-orders, it's a good thing. It'll be interesting to drive the really fast one in 2022 to see how that feels. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this nonsense. If you've liked this, hit like, leave a comment calling me a warm man, and I'll see you next time. And don't forget to subscribe, because there's more of this stuff coming soon, whether you like it or not, I'm afraid. Goodbye.